Good morning. It's truly a pleasure to be here with you this morning. There's a lot of things, obviously, that I would love to cover with you. And, the very first thing that I said I needed to get underway before we even start to talk about Dell Deliver and what we're trying to do in the content and delivery space is to change this whole perception reality position that I think we have. I've only been at Dell about a year and a half, and I was actually brought into Dell to stand up an industry vertical set of solutions for telecommunications, media, entertainment. And invariably, I've been in this industry 20 plus years now, but invariably every customer I walk into, the very first thing they say to me is, I don't really know why I'm talking to you because don't you just do laptops? And so, I told Dan, I said, I have to do a little bit of about a minute positioning that we are more than laptops. Yes, we have a fantastic laptop out right now, but that's not why I'm here. I'm here to talk about the Dell story today is all about solutions and solutions that are empowering our customers in a much more deep and meaningful way. And in a lot of cases, in a very customized way. And it's all about innovation. It's about the way in which Michael Dell started this company was innovating out of his dorm room. Well, that hasn't stopped, and we're really making this industry in a lot of ways that I'm not sure that we get a lot of credit for. So when you think about cloud, and even Amazon, as they spoke before, is very excited to be able to come on after that. I mean, Dell actually was the grandfather of cloud from an infrastructure standpoint. We are the number one infrastructure provider for cloud today. And we started our task around powering the over-the-top providers because we believe the way of the future is innovation, openness, and sorry for those of you in here who have proprietary stacks of software, but we believe non-proprietary is the way to go because you have to be nimble, you have to be ready in which to tackle innovation in a way in which we've never had to do it in the past. I mean, I've been in this industry for 20 plus years and I've not seen the excitement that I've seen in the last year and what we'll see in the next 5 years. It's a very exciting place to be in. So, yes, our customers are saying more than laptops about us. So most all of the over-the-top providers would say to you this very similar thing, that we are a thought leader around innovation of where our customers need to head today and in the future, and cloud being the backbone of that. So the things I'm going to talk to you about today, while we won't talk a lot about it being cloud-enabled, it is certainly right on the heels of that. So you'll hear me maybe next year come back and talk about how the offering is completely cloud-based, and you can do it as a drink, and you can do it as a service, you can do it in whatever flavor you would like. And we'll also talk about the ecosystem that we're building that's associated with that. So from a solutions-powered company, we're focused on solutions, everything from the data center out to the end user. And so the end consumer is our focus, specifically in the vertical in which I'm talking about. The end consumer is where the game is. I mean, the edge is where all of the solutions are being played. The edge is where the power is. The edge is where all the innovation will come from. So you'll hear us talking today a lot about customer and consumer preference versus stacks of hardware and software that, we've had preferences in the past. It's not about that anymore. It's about enabling functionality when they want it, where they want it, and how they want it. So what's driven this industry to be where it is, and why did Dell choose within, telecommunications, media, entertainment, and I'm going to call it TME just because it's a mouthful to get that out, if that's okay with everybody. And we are an acronym industry, right? So if I didn't use an acronym, I'd probably be remiss. In TME, the reason why we chose to focus on things like next generation IT, content management, and mobility is because those are the areas that will enable that innovation I've been talking about, and that will enable this ecosystem that we see today, where, seriously, 10 years ago, who in this room would have thought every minute 125,000 tweets are happening, 208,000 minutes of calls on Skype? I know I do a lot of my conversations today on Skype, and certainly when I do interviews with folks to bring on board, we Skype them. We do customer Skypes. 70,000 photos uploaded each minute on Facebook, and it goes on. And then the other one is 60 hours of video uploaded to YouTube. I know Dan said last year you focused a lot on video, but I think video has really surpassed all of our expectations just in this last year. And then, it goes on and on. Every day, 4.9 billion gigabytes of data. I can remember being a data center manager in a service provider environment and thinking terabytes of data. A terabyte of data was a lot of data. I mean, and we're massively talking about 1.8 zettabytes of data. I mean, that is amazing in every year. And then by 2016, so that's really not far out, the amount of video uploaded globally in just 1 minute would take us 5 years to watch. Just 1 minute. So why is content management and why is content delivery networks, why are they in the forefront? Why are we talking about them today? Why is Dan having a conference now every year to talk about it? Because whether we like it or not, it's in the forefront. And it's not, just about making good use of our networks anymore. It's not just being able to serve up, content the way we want to serve it up anymore. It's, vastly becoming, something that we have to think about not only, from a management standpoint, which I don't think any of us ever really thought. It's just data center infrastructure. What does it matter? You put some infrastructure in there. We can't just think about it that way anymore. It's so massively large that we have to think about how to efficiently, effectively be able to manage that infrastructure. And, oh, by the way, we got to start figuring out how to monetize this. Because, again, reinventing ourselves is about the edge. It's about the consumer. And they want massive amounts when they want it and how they want it. And so we need to figure out a model that would allow us to monetize this. So, yes, the expectations of the consumer has drastically changed. No longer are we satisfied with just status quo. I mean, I know I get upset now on this least little thing if I don't have something at my fingertips in a flash. I'm concerned about that. Integration with all of our devices, all the social networks, and the apps that I choose. Not the apps that are available, but the apps that I choose and that I want. Instant access anywhere I go, and that's on any device that I have. And then that seamless experience across the TV, the phone, and the tablet. I want to be at home doing something in my home on a particular device. I want to be able to leave my home, get in my car, and be able to continue that experience. I want to be on the airplane, and I want to be able to continue that experience. Anywhere I am, I want to be able to continue the experience I have. I mean, those are the expectations of the consumer that you and I are struggling with today and trying to figure out how best to manage that. And then, think about the solution itself. So I'm going to hit the hot buttons of some of you in the room. But I'll tell you, our model and what we're building is disruptive, and it's innovated, and it's not proprietary. So proprietary is not a part of what you'll see today. Our goal is to build all of our solutions on an infrastructure that supports and encourages disruption and innovation, and therefore competition with one another in order to provide the best ecosystem for our customers. Because, growing up in this industry and being in the last 20 years, really what got us where we were, 10, 15 years ago won't get us where we need to be 10, 15 years from now. When you think about, the expensive, hard to implement, proprietary stacks of software and hardware combination that we had, it may have worked good 10 years ago, but it takes too long to innovate on. It takes too long to have an additional functionality that an end consumer wants in a day, in a week, versus a 6-month rollout. We no longer have that ability to do that. So everything you'll hear us talking about is disruption, innovation, and driving a solution. Unfortunately, it's funny because we've been talking about this in the last 3 big shows of the year, and I've had analysts after analysts say, your competitors try to say the same thing about it, but you're really the only one I believe. And the reason why you're the only one I believe that you're open and you're disruptive is because that's really how you built your infrastructure to begin with. It was intended to be on open standards. It was intended to be disruptive. And, we're continuing that with our solutions. We want to be uniquely different, and we want to be able to provide value that is sustainable, ongoing strategy. So we believe that competition actually is in the favor of the end consumer. It might not necessarily be in favor or in your favor as a software provider or a provider of a particular value. But if you think about the ecosystem that you have today on your tablets, whether it's, Apple applications or it's Android applications, you have a ton of information, access, capabilities, and competition. At any point in time, you have 3 or 4 apps that will give you the same functionality or better, depending on who has innovated the most in the last few months. We want to create that same ecosystem in the data center and in the back office and in the content delivery network. We want to be able to provide the service providers, and that's service providers in both the telecommunications space and the media and entertainment space, because they have different needs. One's from a creation standpoint on the media and entertainment side, and on the service provider, it's primarily delivery today, but create and delivery tomorrow. So what we're trying to do is create something that you will be able to sustain over time and provide to your end customer, which is the consumer, the functionality they're asking for. So what is Dell Deliver? So it's built on a platform to drive down cost, push efficiency, and I know that seems like really they say hardware is commoditized, but what I can tell you is a lot of the over-top providers today are in the position that they are to compete against the service providers because of the bottom layer, where it is efficient, it is more dense, and it is driving the capability that it needs to in an impactful way. So our solution has a core backbone and infrastructure by which we built with networking, servers, and storage, because a lot of you may not know, we've made about 15 acquisitions over the last 2 years, and we're on a very high trajectory to be a software company as well as an infrastructure. So we have purchased a lot of assets around storage, a lot of assets around networking, security, applications, and software. And so what we're doing is we're taking those assets and building what we consider to be a fundamentally different infrastructure in which you can ride your content on. And then on top of that stack, we are more efficient because of the partners in which we're choosing. Today, off the start gate, the partners that we chose for the platform, there were some very specific reasons why we chose these partners. Edgecast for the content delivery itself, and then Elemental for the transcoding, encoding, and streaming of the actual, and then I'll talk about some of the monetization next. But the reason why we chose these 2 partners is because they meet our philosophy, and our philosophy is that we're out to enable the consumer without threats to our own abilities. So for instance, Edgecast has a model that 3 ways in which we're able to provide functionality to our customers. And if you look at the large service providers, they don't necessarily want to be locked into a managed CDN by which they don't manage. They want to be able to manage their own and own and operate their own, because they're going to be so massive and so extensive, and they're going to be hitting their bottom line because of the monetization, that they want to have more control over it. So we actually are able to offer our customer a managed CDN, a licensed CDN, where basically we help them stand it up and we turn it over to them to own and operate it, and a federated CDN. And you'll actually get to hear Edgecast later today talk about the federation, why it's important, and why we believe, as a partnership, we're the only one that's able to offer that today. And that's really important for global companies who want to have far reach. And our partnership with Edgecast goes back 7 years. So we have a proven infrastructure by which for 7 years we've been running CDN capabilities. We run 4% of the internet traffic today in a very profitable way. Elemental, and I'll talk more about that in a minute, but the same thing. It's about innovation, it's about openness, it's about driving the most functionality and capability and continuing to innovate on that. I mean, we literally have been in a partnership for a year, and we've got a new release of capability coming out this month, next month, that actually doubles the efficiency, effectiveness, and performance than what we had less than 12 months ago. And that's what we're looking for, is to drive that. Monetization. So again, we can't just manage the CDN anymore. We have to figure out how to make money off of it. And one of the first partners that we wanted to add on here was someone who was reputable and having been effective in delivering up ads that were not just any ads, but were ads that were targeted specifically to a particular consumer preference and use other elements to decide what ads should go there. And M-Dialogue is a partner we chose because they served up the Super Bowl. So if you saw the ads coming up through the Super Bowl and they're targeted in the various areas, it was served up by M-Dialogue. I talked a lot about this already. I put this up here because I did want to make sure I didn't miss any points, and I walked through them. But when you think about a federated CDN solution and allowing seamless exchange of capacity across, it's a really unique model. And I know I have heard others say they have it, but when we investigated and we started to see which partners should we onboard first, we truly believe this is the only model out there that provides all three elements. Now, obviously, our model for the future is to encourage competition, and it's not to lock out, other capabilities. And so I'll talk a little bit about that. I mean, we're still looking at other partners in this ecosystem, but they have to meet certain criteria, and the criteria has to be enabling you to be successful in an open, effective, innovative, disruptive environment. I probably missed a couple of points on the Elemental side of the house, and actually I think they have a booth here at the show, so I encourage you to go by and talk to Elemental. But we believe from a performance per watt, rack, and basically dollar performance in the industry that you won't find a combination any more powerful. We didn't just put Elemental software on existing Dell infrastructure. We've optimized it for the particular purposes of what it's supposed to do, and we've utilized GPU technology in the maximum way through the software and through the hardware. So when you think about GPU performance versus CPU, extremely high performance, specific for video and encoding. So it's for us, and what we believe in the labs that we have done our POCs today against the competitive landscape, we haven't found anything that will compare to that. It's video on demand, it's live streaming, it's over the top, and cloud-based. So remember I said next year we'll come back and everything will be cloud-based. So our goal is to have our platform be cloud-enabled for any customer that chooses to it. So if a customer wants it on-premise, they can have it on-premise. If they prefer to have it through the cloud, they can have it through the cloud. Already talked a good bit about M-Dialogue, but it's dynamic ad insertion, it's targeting technologies, it's specific looking at geolocation, it's looking at audience interactivity, it's looking at device level, it's looking at frequency, it's looking at all aspects. And what I really liked about this company are their analytics on top of it. So our platform is not just about being able to deliver the content and deliver it to any device, which is what Elemental will allow you to do, but it's also then being able to analyze and provide useful information about how it was delivered, who it was delivered to, and then what can I do with that information at a later point. Before I move into the future, so if you look at the ecosystem of the platform I described, an infrastructure by which is supported with networking, servers, and storage. So that means you can store the content, you can serve the content in the most effective, efficient manner, you can transcode and encode the content, you can stream the content, you can do live content, and you can deliver it to any device and any endpoint that's out there today. And it's programmed for any future devices that come on, we'll be able to do that as well. And it's pre-integrated. So if you want the entire solution, you can have it. If you don't want the entire solution, you can take components of it. But we do have the partners pre-integrated, and any partner that we onboard hereafter will be the same way. So it's important for us to have an ecosystem that can play together. And the reason why it's easily integratable, there's two reasons. Number one, open. Again, it's open standard, but we also have an asset that we acquired called Boomi. I'm not sure how many of you have ever heard of that, but it's probably the gem out there among gems. It's basically a point-to-point click, and I do mean it's about as simple as that, application integration software that allows us to integrate applications either on-premise or to the cloud. It does not matter. And it has a database, and it reserves all of the APIs so that it can actually talk to any application. So basically you could talk from Salesforce to your financial services to whatever application you want, and it's not a 6-month consulting engagement. It's a matter of hours and and in some cases days depending on how complex it is. So where's the future for us? I already talked about it being cloud-based. We want you to make more money than you knew possible off of this platform. By making more money, that means we have to bring on more partners. We have arguably, we have 5 to 20 partners already. Some are in the various processes right now. 5 are pretty close. The additional 20 is going to build upon what we're trying to do on Deliver and be the upfront process more on the create side of where the media and entertainment space lives and where I think the service providers will live, at the end of the day, because they'll need to do both. We'll be more efficient because you'll have choice of providers versus being locked in and not being able to utilize the innovation. And we'll continue to drive down cost because the innovation in which we built upon says that really if you can't do energy, price, performance, density, and continue to do that in a major kind of way, that you'll end up missing the game. So, does anybody have any questions? Yes?
Can you just talk a little bit about some of your existing CDN type of customers have been and what the target market is?
Sure. So the target market right out the start gate was the service providers, more on the telecommunications side. We immediately went after that from an end-to-end standpoint and for more of a delivery network because we know that's where they have the biggest amount of problems. So we have a very large customer in Asia. We have very large customer in North America, which I don't necessarily have permission to name those, although I know one of the customers, we actually have a use case PACnet, so I can talk about them, and there's a panel later today with Edgecast and PACnet where they'll be talking about that. But we have very quickly, especially with our transcoding capability and some of the storage capability we have, media and entertainment is moving fastly to us. And the reason why they're moving fastly to us is because some of the innate capabilities that we have around the combination of the infrastructure and the software is fit nicely on the create side. So the large studios, some of the large customers on the media entertainment right now are front and center, and most of our pipeline is associated with that from that standpoint. Yep. Other questions? Yes.
How many locations do you have? You said this is available. Are these the Edgecast locations or these are Dell?
So it will be available in the cloud. It's not available today, so we're working on the cloud-based. But as far as implementing it, it is a global implementation. So we can implement it pretty much anywhere in the world at this point. I mean, we've got some areas where we have less resources from a technical standpoint, but because Dell is built on a global backbone and we have delivery capability today in every country vastly, we have worked with our partners and we've built a model by which we can do that. So we have not seen a customer yet. We've not been able to deliver that. Other questions? Yes?
You made a strong point about CDN federation and
Yeah.
openness. Have you considered contributing in the IETF effort standardizing CDN federation?
Absolutely. And so if you think about what we're doing in the market and being an innovator, I'll give you an example of what's similar to that we've already done on the cloud side of the house. So we quickly moved from providing infrastructure for licensed proprietary stacks to open stacks. So we were the leader. We were the first technology company to be all in around OpenStack, open source. We're the leader around pushing our customers to that. We believe that's where they should go, and that's how they should stand it up. We've already put assets in there that are automatic provisioning assets that really make that easy. We're planning to do the same thing from a CDN side. Totally agree that that's where we need to head. Yep. Any other comments?
There's no more questions.
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for the time.